we've talked about this a little bit. A standard job description are more or less like this. My job is defined as the roles that I am to fill and their associated objectives and tasks. That's a fair statement of the way that we typically, traditionally consider job descriptions, okay? The question is, however, when we consider the outward mindset, what's missing from this conception of my job? Okay? So again, the way we traditionally think of our job description is, it's an assemblage of my objectives, my jobs, my tasks, my things. But if we take into account an outward mindset, what might be missing from this description of my job, my responsibility? Thank you. Think back to when we talked about how do you judge success in a job description. And it's different for an inward versus an outward mindset. There was something missing in the inward mindset approach toward carrying out my job. The outward mindset, had some other shapes, some other things going on there. What's missing from this description of my job?
The objectives of people who work with.
Other people, right? Other people. When we begin to think of an outward mindset, we begin to realize that we have a major impact on how other people complete their jobs. We begin to realize that there are multiple ways I could carry out my job, and every one of those will have a different impact on people around me. So even though all of those different options will achieve what I want, some of them might have a vastly different impact on people around me. So it's ultimately the other people, right? The other people and how we impact them. And again, if we're thinking organizationally, we're thinking of our mission and our objectives, that certainly should be considered as part of our job description. A way to be able to take into account how we're performing our job within the context of them doing their job. Okay? Okay. So if we haven't really been considering the impact of other people, what mindset might we be operating from? Of course, we've already answered that question. It's in some respects, it's the natural way for these things to work. And yet it's also the recipe for all of these quote-unquote people problems. You know, it's interesting, on a bit of a side note, it's just fun to watch as people come out of Bert's Bistro, and there's something that I call with businesses the linger effect. Okay, the linger effect. There's something that invites people to linger a little longer. And you don't find it as much anymore. Bert's has that, it's this linger effect. There's something about it, I'm going to linger a little bit longer. A lot of the businesses, a lot of the ways we used to conduct life in the United States, even drugstores had a linger effect, right? Fountain machines, and there was something about recognizing all these places as gathering spots where they could get to know each other. We've become so darn efficient and productive at everything. We've taken the lingering out of everything, the reflective out of everything. So that getting stuff done, we've become so inward mindset that we stopped even taking into account how our work might be affecting others that are essentially another cog in trying to achieve the exact same ultimate goal. Okay? Linger effect. I always love that. See, she's lingering right now. Yeah. Little does she know she has a whole group of people staring. All right, let's move on here. All right, so this is what we're going to do. My job responsibilities, I've just listed them here. We're going to add other people to our impact on them to our conception of our work. Okay, so within the job responsibilities map, I want you to begin to list names, up to 6 in each direction. Hopefully none of you has 6 managers. Go ahead and list the individual who you have an impact on, that is your manager. On the side, customers, end users, people. This could be groups or individuals. Reports, again, it could be groups or individuals. Peers, you're in a room full of peers. Think of those that could most potentially be impacted by the way you choose to carry out your job. And we just want to go ahead and list their names down. We want to kind of become alive to them, to the impact that we're having on them. Okay? Okay, now I want to pause here for a second, and I'm going to ask you to go to this, go to a place that has the following things at the top of the page. Turning mindset. My page is 98, so page 98, give or take 17 pages. All right. I'm going to read through this. I want you to follow along as I read through this. This is, what we're going to do is right now, again, we're always careful to say, here are the principles, but let's see this stuff apply. Let's get our arms around a case study of seeing these things actually put into practice and what it actually means, okay? So kind of follow along as I read through this story. My name is Laura. I'm a customer service rep in a large telephone company. I answer incoming calls from customers who need new installations, all right? Here's the JavaScript. Take all the information about the customer's request, enter it into my computer, and schedule an appointment. Then this information is sent over to the installation department. Research shows that the customers get annoyed when they have to wait longer than about 20 seconds to have their calls answered. So we reps have made this one of our goals. Answer all calls in 15 seconds or less. We installed a big electronic display on the wall that shows how many seconds customers are waiting. Our goal is to keep that number way down. Of course, this puts a lot of pressure on us. We've got to take information quickly and make each conversation with customers as short and efficient as possible. But at the end of the day, it's a good feeling to know that most of our customers got a timely pickup when they called. All right, now first of all, I think there has to be at least a level of admiration. Obviously, Laura takes the job very seriously. We like to see that tone. The question I'd ask is, whom does Laura affect in the way that she does her work? Okay, so customers right off the bat, right? Any others?
Installation department.
All right. So installation department, how so?
Well, if she's getting that information in too much of a hurry and misses stuff, it's going to greatly affect what they have to do.
Yeah, there's almost like a chain of custody or a supply chain element to this, right? She's one element within that. So absolutely, installation department. All right, look at the next question down. Does the way that she's conceived her objectives help her feel accountable for the full effect of her work? How has she conceived her objectives?
20 seconds or less.
Yeah,
She needs to get her
very
calls.
focused on that customer. And at the end of the day, what's her title? She's most likely a customer service rep. So again, as far as job description goes, you take care of these customers. Now, in some respects, and then it looks like they went, she takes it very seriously. They said most of them get annoyed at 20, so we go ahead and as a group, we decide we're going to do it in 15. She's really taking the initiative here. But the question is, does the way that she's conceived her objectives help her feel accountable for the full effect of her work? What do you think? Jeff just mentioned another group of individuals that might be impacted by her job. Does anything about the way she sees her objectives take them into account? Doesn't it? Let's go over to the next page. This is the same story from another perspective. My name is Randy. I work in the installation department. Our job is to complete timely installations. However, sloppy customer service orders make it pretty tough to keep up. More often than not, the customer service reps have either made a mistake on the address or failed to find out what the customer really wants. We end up having to guess on locations, driving around looking for addresses or trying to reach the customers by phone. It takes a ridiculous amount of time. And then when we finally get there, it's often a very different installation than we expected, and we don't have the right equipment. Last year, we were able to complete only 57% of our jobs on the first visit. If the customer reps would take a few more questions and be more accurate in their typing, I think we could get the number way up. All right, now let's reference that question. Laura's work group is trying to please customers, but ultimately, how pleased do you think the customers of this company really are?
57%.
Yeah, that's not, I don't know, it's been a long time since I was in high school, but I don't think a 57% gets you even a pass, right? Of course, today it would probably just be an A-, All right. So Laura is set about with a very specific job description. And when we're having an inward mindset, first of all, does Laura strike you as an admirable person? I don't think there's any question. She takes this very seriously, and she's exhibiting a great deal of pride in achieving some of these objectives and actually exceeding them. But the way that she is conceived of her job description, by failing to take into account the other directions, she actually inadvertently is causing more damage to the very people that she thinks she's given a positive experience to. Right? So you have this other group of individuals, this installation department, who are really suffering because of this. Ultimately, who's suffering the most?
The customers.
Customers. All right, let's turn the page. And again, questions. Does Laura intentionally make problems for Randy's group? Of course not, of course not. What do you suppose that she'd say if you asked her why she was such a troublemaker? Right. You can almost see the expression and you almost couldn't catch her breath. Wait, what do you mean? She would never think of herself that way. All right. Now, consider how things might go differently if Laura and her team began considering their impact on Randy and the installation team. For example, instead of focusing only on answering calls in 15 seconds or less, what if Laura's work group thought of their work like this? You see that around that oval. Answer calls quickly in a way that enables the installers to complete timely installations. Okay, so here we're talking about a minor change to the way she carries out her job, but suddenly she's aware of these other directions that she's having an impact on. Okay? Before then, what was the consequence to the company? Was it good or bad? The way that she carried out her job.
It's bad.
Bad, right? She didn't want to do a bad job. She knew she did a bad job. She'd stop in a heartbeat. So when we're not completely aware of the impact we're having on other people, we might be doing a fantastic job and actually hurting the company. Okay? All right, so if Laura's work group uses this objective to guide their work, what natural adjustments do you suppose they might take on behalf of the installers? What do you think they might change about the way that they do their job?
Add fewer questions.
Yeah,
A little more time to be
Takes time.
completely thorough.
yeah. How much time do you think that might add to the call? Yeah, it might add another 20 or 30 seconds. And so you might end up having calls wait a little bit longer than the 20, but if you're talking about having somebody wait on a call for 30 seconds instead of 15 seconds, but the whole thing is being done right the first time around, you see, it kind of goes back to the chip experiment. Remember how, yes, right off the bat, if you only look at that initial investment, it's quicker for Chip to just push him to the couch. But if it takes just a moment longer, the time savings afterward are immense in that positive ripple effect. Okay, so let's see what happens. All right, so we're on page whatever.
97.
All right, after we understood how to help the installers achieve good results, I couldn't keep taking orders the old way. I started to ask the customers if there were any tips that they could give on finding their house. So she's going above and beyond, it's not just collecting the address. She's suddenly realizing how I can really be helpful to these other individuals and ultimately to the customer. My colleagues and I even asked our supervisor if a new field could be added to our screen so we could note these tips for the installers. Does anybody else want to hire Laura? She's just great. She knows the problem. She just really takes the initiative. I love it. The installers tell us this has really helped. I'm also careful to ask more questions about what the customer needs. Often, when they understand the options, they end up making an entirely different request. I can see now that this is much more efficient for me to talk carefully with the customers at the front end than to send the poor installers off misinformed and without the right equipment. Sometimes it takes longer to take a customer order now, but everyone's so committed to helping the installers that we found we can manage the call load pretty well by adjusting when we take our work breaks. The funny thing is, work has been a lot more fulfilling since we started to think about enabling the installers to do their work. I feel like I've been entrusted with a big responsibility toward our customers, toward my coworkers. It's a challenge, but I feel like I'm up to it. What do you think? What struck you about that?
We found different options to make the results better for everybody. You know, they kind of
Started working as a team instead of
Yeah.
as individuals.
Just a little more time in that front end experience, how much greater the positive result was at the end.
Yeah.
And, extra minute phone call could have saved a whole day of having to come back the next day and the customer's upset.
And ultimately, those customers are going to be so pleased at the end, so it's gonna make a bigger impact for the organization,
Yeah.
repeat customers, whatever, you know.
Situationally aware. When you have that outward mindset, you don't just think of that one dimension, right? You don't just think of, all right, I'm a customer service rep, therefore I'm here to serve the customer. Because if you do that, you can find yourself with all kinds of blinders on, right? And the irony to this, and the thing that probably just really bugged her at the end of the day, was recognizing that I was so obsessed and focused only on the customers that ultimately my behavior was actually hurting the customers. Then she became situationally aware to the installers, but furthermore to the manager as well. Ultimately, that manager, does the manager want 57% of the jobs completed the first day or a higher number? Higher number, right? So suddenly becoming alive to those outside triangles in all those different directions allowed her to be more productive. Now she said something very interesting at the end too. The funny thing is, work has been a lot more fulfilling since we started to think about enabling the installers to do their work. Why do you think it's become more fulfilling?
Because you know you're helping them out as well to make final better.
Yeah.
You know, you're-
No, she's not just helping the customer, she's helping people that actually serve the customer.
Think about that for a minute. Do you think she feels more or less part of the team than before? More. Do you think she sees more purpose or less purpose in what she's doing than before? More. She suddenly recognizes her role in this larger goal and mission, right? Whereas before, everything was very narrow. It was on my job description. Now taking that into account, it's given her this larger vision of what we're trying to achieve collectively.